So a lot of people in recent years have been complaining about the photo and video quality of iPhones.
Actually, what is wrong with the iPhone 15 camera and how do I change it? Every time I take photos, I look like a gray ghost.
Including some of my friends, and it's not until I change the settings on their phone for them or show them what they're doing wrong that they realize that these phones are actually more capable than they've ever been before. So in this video, we're gonna walk through my top 3 tips for how you can get cinematic footage out of your iPhone. And this is the advanced guide. I actually have a more simple, basic guide for beginners who are just getting their first iPhone and want to take better photos and videos. And I'll leave that video linked up here or somewhere in the description below, and you can check that out. But if you're looking to get your iPhone footage to that next level, that cinematic production, that professional look, this is the video for you. After all the new iPhone release videos that Apple has shot have actually been shot with iPhones. Now, while this tutorial won't get you all the way there, since they're using a lot of Hollywood assistants, it'll definitely take your videos to the next level. So without any further ado, let's dive into my top 3 tips. Now, my first tip is to actually stop shooting on the native camera app on your iPhone. Now, this might sound insane to some of you because that's all you've ever known. And while the default camera app by Apple on your iPhone is incredible, it's really easy to use, it's intuitive, and it gets you good results, there's something critical missing from this app, and that's the ability to change manual camera controls that you can on a professional camera. Luckily, Apple has already thought of this, and they've already addressed their prosumer market who are looking to get better footage out of their iPhone. So the app that we're actually going to download for this video is called the Final Cut Camera app, and it's from Apple, designed by Apple for the iPhone only, and it's 100% free. Now, me personally, what I've done is I've actually set my Final Cut Camera app to the action button, which you should have if you have a newer iPhone, including the iPhone 16e, which Apple just released as their new budget iPhone. And this will let you access the Final Cut Camera app right away, giving you 2 buttons on your phone to access your cameras: the action button for now video, and the original camera control button to access the default camera app to take photos or more simpler videos if you have one of the new iPhone 16s that support the button. Now, once we're in the app, there's actually not much we need to change in order to level up our video quality, which is the great thing about Apple products. They're really easy to use. So at the top, the first thing we're going to change is our resolution. It'll probably be 1080p by default, but we want 4K for the highest resolution. Next up, we have our frame rates, and you can really pick whichever one is preferable to you, but they each serve their own specific purpose. 24 frames per second is generally used for more cinematic footage, 30 frames per second is used for more social media footage, and 60 frames and 120 frames, if you have that option on the newer iPhones, lets you really slow down your footage. Me personally, I generally use 30 frames per second when filming on my iPhone because everything I film on this is going to end up on social media. Next up, we want to change our video format to Apple ProRes log and our color profile to log. Now, this is going to make everything look great, meaning that you're going to need to know how to color grade your footage and understand how log works. Now, that's a whole separate topic, and we're not going to get too deep into it in this video. I do have another video on my channel that explains how I color grade my Apple log footage, and you should definitely check that out if that's something you're interested in. And I also have a new video coming out very soon on my workflow on Apple log ProRes and how to use it. But for this video, if you're looking to get into color grading and you want something simple to start off with, I will leave a link in the description below for a free Apple transformation LED that's from Apple, so it's completely from them. It's not something that I've created. That should help you get started with color grading in addition to the other video if you want to check that out. Now, if you've seen my original video on my Apple cinematic settings, then you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, everything's pretty much the same up until this point. And you're right, because this is where the magic happens that Final Cut Camera allows you to change. If we click this little up arrow, you're going to notice that you get a few more settings unlocked. The first one is white balance. This is something that you can change in the default camera app on your iPhone. Now that you have access to this, you can really set the mood, the tone, the temperature, and the color of your video specifically to exactly what you want. Now, me personally, I'm only using 3 different temperatures when I'm filming my videos using this app. When I'm outdoors, I'm using 5600 Kelvin, and when I'm indoors, depending on how dark it is, I'm either using 4800 Kelvin like I am right now, or 3200 Kelvin for a really dark and more cool scene. The next two major settings that we're going to change are shutter speed and ISO, and they're also the last two things that we're going to touch inside of this app. Now, shutter speed, ideally you want this to be double your frame rate. So for example, if you picked 30 frames per second before, you now want your shutter speed to be 1/60th. Similarly, if you pick 24 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/48. Now what that does is that it creates accurate motion blur. So if you've ever seen movies or anything like that, or if I wave my hand in front of this camera, you're going to notice that there's motion blur, and that's because I'm following that rule where my shutter speed is double my frame rate. Next up, we're going to change our ISO. Now this setting is pretty easy. You just want it to be as low as possible all the time. ISO creates artificial brightness, and it also adds noise to your video. So keep this as low as possible and you'll have minimal noise in your video. Now obviously if you do this and your video is too dark, you want to slowly start increasing your ISO until your exposure looks okay. Now there is a chance that after doing all of this, your video looks way too bright. And that brings us to tip number 2. You're going to want to get some ND filters for your iPhone if you want to start recording professional looking video. Now chances are, if you've always shot on your iPhone, you have no idea what ND filters are. And they're essentially just like sunglasses for your camera. They help make your scene darker to help you adjust for bright exposures and still maintain the settings that you have in place. And just to give you an example for how much work these filters do, I actually have one on my camera right now, and if I take it off, you're gonna notice how bright and overexposed my image is. Now, there are a ton of ways to mount filters or get filters and types of cases for your phone, and you're free to get whichever one you want, but the one that I'm personally using is this one. This is the new Light Chaser Pro 16 Slim Series by Polar Pro. Now, other companies have their own versions like Moment, but since I am a Polar Pro ambassador, this is the one that I'm using, and you're obviously free to get whichever one you want. The reason that I love this one specifically so much, because Polar Pro does have a non-slim series, is how small this whole package is. I just put the case on my phone, and I'll get to the filter in a second, but this is really easy to carry around with you and really pocketable, and doesn't really add much to your daily pocket weight. Now, the way this system works is that basically you have a case that you put on your iPhone like you just saw, and there's a quick release system that lets you take this filter on and off, and there's a bunch of different filters that you can get for your iPhone. And what I like about the Polar Pro ones is that the quick release system works really well, and they also have these protective cases for the filter, so you actually have to take this off, which reveals the filter underneath, which I love. Now, there are many different types of filters that you can get for your iPhone regardless of what company you go with, but this is the one that I specifically recommend, and it's called the VND 2 to 5 stop with black mist. And essentially all that means is that it's a variable neutral density filter, so it has 3 stops from 2 to 5, so 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, that's actually 4 stops. So you have 4 stops, which you can switch between just by turning the dial on the filter over here, and that adjusts how dark and bright your image is. And the other component to this filter is the black mist. What that does is that it creates a nice, pleasing bloom in the highlights, which makes your footage look less digital and more professional, which is exactly what we're going for in this video. Fun fact, this is just a mini version of the exact filter that I use on my professional cameras. And before we get into our final tip for this video, I just want to quickly mention this video sponsor, which is Artlist. And Artlist has a sick bunch of new features that allow you to really find the footage that you're looking for really quickly if you're someone that relies heavily on stock footage for your videos, like I do sometimes. So you can now easily look for things like volcano videos, something that you can get yourself. Artlist has these filters that let you do just that. You just simply open up the filters panel under the footage, you click on video theme and select what you're looking for. You can even further refine this by shot type. So if you want the original log footage to color grade yourself, you can do that. And this is perfect for somebody that's just starting out and doesn't know how to color grade and they want to practice on some footage. You can literally just filter by log footage, download as much as you want, and practice to your heart's content. You can even refine the footage by length and orientation. And with the similar footage feature, you can quickly find a vast array of options for the type of footage that you're looking for from various creators. But my favorite new addition has to be the related assets section under voiceover. Now, we've talked about voiceovers a ton on this channel because I absolutely love that feature, but something I love even more about voiceovers is the amazing previews that Artlist has created. And if you've ever wondered exactly how they've made those, well, now you can see exactly what they're made made up of. If you just simply click on the related assets icon, you can see exactly the music that was used in these, as well as the sound effects. This should definitely help you get started in improving at sound design. I just want to give a huge shout out to Artlist for sponsoring today's video and being such a huge supporter of the channel. They're really a service that I wish was around when I first started, because they make making videos like this a lot easier. If this is a service that you're interested in signing up for, definitely check out the link in my description to save yourself a couple of bucks. And once again, thank you to Artlist. Now let's get back to the video. Now, my third and final tip for you to get cinematic footage, and you've probably guessed it by now, is to get a gimbal. And again, this might sound crazy to some of you guys because the built-in stabilization on the iPhone has become so incredible, but the fact is that these new gimbals like the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro or the new DJI ones allow you to pull off some stuff that you just simply can't do when filming by yourself, which most of us are. So for example, you can just simply set this down on its tripod legs. So if you just give me a second, and most of these will have this, you can just put this down and the phone can automatically track you as you walk around. This is really helpful if you're filming yourself in a gym, or if you're filming yourself cooking or something like that. You can just set yourself and your gimbal down, walk away, and the gimbal will automatically track you and keep you in frame. These phone gimbals also allow you to perform various camera movements that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do handheld, which is a huge lifesaver if you're trying to get more professional looking footage. Now, obviously a gimbal is not as pocketable as a free app or a case with a filter, which is why I left this tip for the end. The tips are in the order that I think that you should implement them in. So if you're going to prioritize anything, I would start off with the Final Cut camera app, then maybe get some ND filters, and then as a final step, pick up a gimbal to really tie it all together. If you want more information on this gimbal specifically, I do have a video on my channel that you can check out, and I will be comparing it to the new DJI gimbals very shortly. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification icon. That's it for this video though. I'll see you guys in the next one, and until then, keep creating.